Let's talk about something nobody explains properly. Hard work does not make you valuable. Effort alone does not increase your income. Time served does not guarantee leverage. You can grind for 10 years and still be replaceable. That's the part nobody wants to admit, because it's uncomfortable. But if you understand what actually creates upward movement, you stop playing the wrong game. Most people think career growth looks like this. Pick one thing, get good at it. Wait your turn, hope someone notices. That's linear thinking, and linear thinking caps out. What actually creates acceleration is stacking. Not random stacking, strategic stacking. If you combine skills intentionally, skills that multiply each other, you become extremely hard to replace. Not because you're the best at one thing, but because very few people have your combination. That's the difference between being competent and being dangerous. Let me explain. When I was earlier in my career, I did what most people do. I focused on doing my job well, hit metrics, be reliable, stay late, raise my hand. That works, to a point. But eventually I noticed something. The people moving faster weren't necessarily the smartest. They weren't necessarily working longer hours. They had something else. They had range. They understood operations and could communicate it clearly. They understood data and could translate it to leadership. They understood systems and could influence change. They weren't specialists. They were connectors, and connectors scale. Here's the framework. There are 3 types of skills you need to stack intentionally. First, a primary skill. This is your base. This is the thing you are objectively competent at. Finance, engineering, operations, sales, coding, design, trades. Something measurable, something monetizable, something concrete. If you don't have a primary skill, you don't have a foundation. Second, a multiplier skill. This is what increases the output of your primary skill. Data analysis, automation, AI, negotiation, process design, systems thinking. This is where leverage begins. Third, a visibility skill. This is the accelerator. Communication, writing, public speaking, storytelling, brand positioning, executive presence. This is what gets you seen. Now here's what most people do wrong. They only build a primary skill. They become technically competent, then they stall, because competence is common. Let me give you a real example. I knew someone who was an exceptional analyst, sharp, detail-oriented, deep knowledge of the business, but he couldn't present. Every time he got in front of leadership, he buried them in detail. No framing, no narrative, no executive-level translation. He stayed stuck for years. Meanwhile, someone else who was maybe 70% as technically strong, but could explain impact clearly, moved up, not because of politics, because clarity scales. That's skill stacking in real time. Primary skill plus communication skill, multiplier effect. I also remember, I watched someone early in their career jump roles constantly. Every 12 to 18 months, new department, new title, new direction. On paper, it looked ambitious. In reality, it was random accumulation. No stacking, just collecting experiences. 5 years later, they had breadth, but no compound depth, no identifiable leverage. Contrast that with someone who stayed in one domain, but layered: data literacy, automation, executive communication, process improvement. 5 years later, they weren't just experienced, they were architect-level valuable. That's the difference. Stacking versus hopping. Now let's go deeper. Your primary skill should do one thing: anchor you to value. If the market pays for it, it's viable. If nobody pays for it, it's a hobby. Your multiplier skill should increase: speed, output, scale, efficiency. Your visibility skill should increase: opportunity, influence, trust, authority. When those 3 interact, something changes. You stop competing on effort. You start competing on capability, and capability compounds. Let's break this down practically. If you're in finance, primary equals finance expertise. Multiplier equals data analytics or automation. Visibility equals executive communication. Now you're not just finance. You're the person who can analyze trends, build dashboards, translate impact, influence decision-making. That's rare. If you're in tech, primary equals coding. Multiplier equals systems architecture. Visibility equals explaining technical decisions to non-technical stakeholders. Now you're not just a developer, you're strategic infrastructure. If you're in sales, primary equals closing. Multiplier equals psychology or negotiation. Visibility equals brand building. Now you scale beyond commission. Here's the truth. Most income ceilings aren't effort ceilings. They're skill architecture ceilings. You don't earn more because you work more. You earn more because your skill combination becomes harder to substitute. That's how you move from 56,000 to six figures. That's how you move from six figures to executive. That's how you create optionality. Now let's talk timeline. 5 years. That's the window. Most people underestimate what 5 focused years can do, and overestimate what 1 chaotic year can do. If you deliberately stack 1 new skill per year, in alignment, you don't look the same in year 5. Year 1, primary deepening. Year 2, add multiplier skill. Year 3, improve visibility skill. Year 4, refine and integrate. Year 5, operate at a higher tier. That's not hype, that's math. 5 years of focused stacking outperforms 10 years of random motion. Now here's what makes this dangerous. When you combine technical skill, systems thinking, and communication, you become the person leadership relies on. Not because you're loud, because you connect dots, you see patterns, you reduce friction, you increase output. That's leverage. Now let's address something uncomfortable. A lot of people avoid stacking because it feels slower up front. Learning adjacent skills is uncomfortable. You feel average again. You feel behind, you're not the expert in that new layer. But that temporary dip is the compounding phase. Most people quit there. They go back to comfort. And comfort caps growth. You want uncomfortable adjacency, not random exploration. Adjacent stacking, if you're in operations, learn analytics. If you're in analytics, learn storytelling. If you're in storytelling, learn systems. It must connect. Random skills don't multiply. Aligned skills do. Now let's make this practical. Here's how you choose your stack. Step 1. Identify your primary skill. What do you get paid for right now? That's your anchor. Step 2. Ask, what skill would double my output? Automation, AI, data, negotiation, leadership, pick one. Step 3. Ask, what skill would increase my visibility? Public speaking, writing, executive presence, brand, pick one. Now commit to 12 months per layer. Not perfection, competence stacks, perfection stalls. Now here's the real power. Once your stack is strong, opportunities come to you. Not because you chase them, because your reputation shifts. You become the one who can handle that. And that's where leverage lives. Let me say something clearly. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You need to be the most integrated. Integration beats specialization after a certain level. Specialists compete horizontally. Integrated operators compete vertically. Different game, different ceiling. Now let's talk identity. When you stack deliberately, you stop asking, how do I get promoted? And start asking, how do I increase capability? That mindset shift alone changes trajectory, because promotions are outcomes. Capability is input. Focus on capability. Outcomes follow. Let's close this with clarity. If you do nothing intentional for 5 years, you'll look roughly the same. If you deliberately stack aligned skills for 5 years, you won't recognize yourself, and neither will the market. You don't need to work 100-hour weeks. You need to work intelligently, stack intelligently, position intentionally. This isn't about hustle culture. It's about leverage architecture. So here's what I want you to do. Before you click away, write down your primary skill, 1 multiplier skill, 1 visibility skill. That's your 5-year stack. Run it, refine it, integrate it. If this gave you a strategic lens instead of motivation, hit the like button. If you're serious about building leverage, instead of just consuming productivity content, subscribe to Grind a Million. This channel isn't about hype. It's about capability. It's about structure. It's about building something that compounds. And if you're willing to stack intelligently for 5 years, you won't need luck. You'll need space to grow. I'll see you in the next one.